Well, let's go ahead and get started. Today's session is called "Straight from the Source: Why and How You Should Be Using ServiceNow Cloud Cost Management for AI Spend." Today's agenda: we'll start with a quick introduction of myself, and then we'll jump into a couple of key topics here. So we'll be talking a little bit about AI as an asset, and then we'll talk about a specific use case of using CCM with Google Cloud Platform for Gemini visibility. It's just one example of many different things that we can achieve in this space. A little bit about me. My name is Ian Cahall. I'm the Associate Director and Principal Architect at Ondaro, focused on our ITX practice. So I work in IT asset management, IT operations, and SecOps and risk. I've been working in and around ServiceNow for a little over a decade in all the different roles that you can really think of, right? So I got my start working as a user on a service desk, moved up into platform administration, ultimately made my jump into consulting, and now, of course, am consulting as an architect. There's a few different things that I'm really focused on, right? Again, obviously, my role has me laser focused on things like ITAM and ITOM, but as ServiceNow increasingly and aggressively becomes an AI platform, what I'm really focused on is trying to make sure that we're not selling pie in the sky things and solutions, right? We're really very mature and responsible in terms of how we're approaching those things. And this is a great example of exactly that, right? I really do think it's important that we are kind of measured in how we're talking about AI. Me personally, I'm located in the Midwest, but I frequent South Florida. I did live in Tampa, Florida for a little while. You can find me very frequently also out in California visiting ServiceNow and a few other customers out in that area as well. So let's get started talking about AI as an asset. Again, I think this is a topic that I've had an opportunity to talk about a few different times, but I really continue to kind of harp on this topic of looking at AI as an asset because of the state of our industry right now, right? So we think about our major AI-only publishers like OpenAI and Anthropic. We've also got organizations like Microsoft, Google, I mean, you name it, right, that are all introducing AI to their core offerings, whether it's, Microsoft Office or Google Workspace. All of these things have AI offerings within them. And then, of course, there's commercial platforms like ServiceNow, right, and Salesforce that are positioning themselves as AI platforms almost exclusively, right? But it's not all rainbows and butterflies, right? So we've got several major headlines very recently that up to 95% of AI initiatives are failing within companies for a variety of reasons, and we'll talk about a couple of those in just a moment. But at the same time, Gartner is telling us that our AI spend globally is going to top $1.5 trillion this year alone. Which is really incredible, right? There's almost no comparable kind of product or boom or explosion. Even if you look back at the dot-com bubble or anything like that, this is really uncomparable to those things because at that time, right, there wasn't this massive skew of such a huge injection of funding, while at the same time, such a massive failure rate of adoption. So we think about what can go wrong when we're looking at adopting AI. We look at things like introductory confusing pricing, right? So AI is so new, everybody signing these agreements today are being introduced at competitive introductory rates, which we know are going to go up at renewal. We also see that the licensing itself is very confusing, right? You've got access licensing, but you've also got tokens and you've got tiered pricing. And all of this makes seeing what's happening in the space very difficult, coupled with the fact that we've got low visibility to these things. So, if you go out to OpenAI's API, you can see certain usage statistics there, and you can even see certain spend statistics there. But if you hit the API and try to pull that data back, what you get is not actually something that's super useful in doing any kind of real management of the data, and certainly not anything like deprovisioning, et cetera. Um, and the bigger issue, right, is that, of course, those are just the big guys in the space. Says nothing about the smaller, more niche AI players that continue to crop up on almost a daily basis, right? And then finally, we look at the way that macroeconomic factors continue to shift, right? So we know that budgets are constricting. And at that time, once these budgets hit a certain point, we're all going to be looking at our AI spend with a little bit more scrutiny than we have been over the last year and a half. It's going to be, what are we buying this for? What are we getting out of it, rather than just, hey, we got to do AI, right? Because everybody else is doing it. And so this is where I really position AI as an asset, right? When we think about the asset management process, we're talking about managing and optimizing our assets throughout their life cycle, because we want to maximize their value. We want to make sure that we're not exploding their costs and minimizing the risk to our organization. And so what better use case than AI, right? And historically, we've looked at the same thing with things like cloud, right? Look back 7 or 8 years ago, as cloud was really hitting proliferation, we were having these same conversations about cloud at that time. And so it's really fortuitous that we're looking at this through the lens of cloud cost management. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that is in just a moment. So when we're thinking about the solution, which is AI as an asset, there's really kind of two different paths. If your organization has already adopted AI, you really need to start looking at AI as an asset that needs to be managed as such. Look for those data sources for where we can see our AI usage, our AI spend, consolidate those sources, right? Especially as we see more and more organizations going to multi-model, multi-provider AI environments. Make sure we're establishing visibility, and then look for means to optimize that spend with that visibility that we've established. On the flip side, if you're just getting started in adopting AI, or you're kind of planning your adoption strategy, start with that as your framework, right? The AI that you're going to bring into your organization is an asset, and it should be managed as such. And make sure that we're not taking the shotgun approach to trying to adopt everything we can and just throw money at AI, hoping that we'll get some kind of unmeasurable value back out of it. And so what we're going to get into in just a second is look at a specific use case for how we can actually do that. And again, the idea of this is to be applicable broadly to all of the different types of AI that we're looking at out in our environments today. So again, our use case here is making use of ServiceNow's cloud cost management with Google Cloud Platform, or GCP, to try to establish visibility of Gemini spend. Just a quick intro for those of you that aren't familiar with cloud cost management. Cloud cost management is a tool that does exactly that, right? So it's a tool that looks to integrate with your existing cloud environments for the big three publishers: Azure, AWS, GCP. It works well with discovery to make sure that we're not just discovering cloud resources, but also services, billing, price sheets, you name it, right? And for many organizations, right, your AI spend lives in the cloud, right? Whether you're using Copilot or Gemini, or you're using, of course, AWS has like Agent Bedrock and those sorts of things. So whether you're using their services, or you're porting their services to the cloud, or you're standing them up on top of your cloud infrastructure, a lot of your spend is going to live there anyway. CCM does a great deal to help build visibility with that and get that data straight from the source of where your AI is being used today. And so we're going to go over the quick steps to achieve this visibility in this use case, right? So step one, we want to integrate cloud cost management with GCP. So cloud cost management has, much like the rest of the platform, guided setup that makes integrating with cloud pretty easy. And Google Cloud in particular is very straightforward. And thankfully, since we're talking about serverless AI resources, in this case, getting visibility to that becomes much easier, right? We don't really have to worry about the discovery component. We're really much more so focused on the AI resource usage, or the service usage, the tagging of those things, et cetera. And so as you're going through the guided setup, there are really 4 key steps to complete this integration, right? Number one You got to make sure that your Google billing account is configured. Now, this is a standard step, so most organizations have already done this as they first adopted Google Cloud, but it's something that does need to be completed to achieve this integration. You'll create your Google API credentials on the Google Cloud side. You'll schedule billing data download jobs so that we can pull in both our Google billing and our price sheets from Google. And this is really important when it comes to translating some of the token economics for some of these AI models. And then from there, we'll make sure that we add a Google Cloud CI class or potentially multiple classes, depending on how you choose to manage these items. In our case, for this instance, we're really looking at a single class. From there, we want to make sure that we tag AI resources, and this is kind of part and parcel to any kind of cloud cost management that we're doing, but this is particularly useful when we're trying to measure these AI spend categories, because we can be pretty dynamic in how we do so, right? We can look at the specific types of AI that we're using within the cloud, and in this case, we're focused on Gemini, but it's really important to understand that, again, most cloud services give you access to many different types of AI models. And so Gemini is really the one that we're most interested in here. And then we want to make use of Cloud Cost Management's Spend Analytics toolset. So Spend Analytics makes use of those tags that we've created in combination with those billing data downloads and the price sheets to measure and group that spend. And so you can logically break this out into specific models that we're looking at from a Gemini perspective. If we're using different Gemini services, we can get breakdowns of those. And of course, as with any kind of workspace visualization that you guys would be familiar with, we're also going to get a lot of different ways to break that data into who's using it, how it's being used, when it's being used, and when we're paying for it, right? And really start to try to make some intelligent decisions around what we're going to do with it from there. And so this is just the summary, right? So again, gaining visibility to AI spend is just kind of your starting point. And again, I would say that it is the starting point for any organization trying to make sense of where they're spending money on AI. So once we get that GCP Gemini integration going and we're getting that visibility, that's just where we kind of kick things off. We also want to expand into our other AI services. Like I mentioned before, ChatGPT, Claude, those have app services within the other major cloud providers. And so you can probably gain access to that data as well. But then, once you've got that data, you need to do something with it. And it's great to have that visibility, but the next step is workflowing it into action and actually trying to optimize that spend wherever possible. So, the closing statement that I'll leave you guys with is we want to get our AI data straight from the source. We want to make sure that we are getting that visibility early and often and treating that AI data as an asset to make sure that we are addressing it appropriately throughout its life cycle. I think I'm right on time, so I will certainly take any questions if you guys have any. And if you enjoyed the session, I really appreciate you stopping out. Thanks, guys. Okay, we're right on time, and I see no questions. So thanks so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the event.